Theater is incredibly traditional. There are so many things that happen in theater that go into a design, and rules that actors follow that stay the same throughout so many years. The way we create theater is still pretty similar to what we did 50 years ago. The concepts, the same ideologies, and the same techniques are all mostly used today. However, like with most things nowadays, people are starting to digitize or bring in a strong aspect of digital media into the realm they live in. And technical theater is no exception. It's not that Broadway is being digitized or that we will have only digital shows from now on. It's not that. It's the full force introduction of projection design, or sometimes called multimedia or video design, into productions that is changing the game. Projection design is described as the creation and integration of film, motion graphics, and live camera feed into the fields of theater, opera, dance, fashion shows, concerts, and other live events. It's taking the techniques, skills, and concepts from film and animation and applying it to a live performance. The integration of projections is a relatively new one. I mean, shadow puppetry and the magic lantern have been a huge part in the evolution of projections, and are its past, but the concept of projection design being its own separate land in the world of technical theater is a relatively new one, and it's here to stay. Projection design is changing the landscape of theater. It's elevating the designs and stories being put on stage, and I want to go through how projection design is achieving this. Storytelling in theater has always been visual, but through different means. Each area surrounding the theater are all in the same team with the same goal to tell the same story. The actors tell the story through their characters, the scenic designer tells the story through the set props, the costume designer tells the story through the costumes, the lighting designer tells the story through the lights, etc., etc. They are all extensions of the story that the playwright has put down on paper. Projection designer Peter Negrini says, "It's about harnessing the technology in a way that feels like an organic extension of the emotional tone happening on the stage." So, like the way that a lighting designer could create a red light environment to convey passion, sex, or anger, or the way that a costume designer could give the character a more jagged costume to portray intensity or quirkiness to the character, is what Negrini is trying to get across. It's about the idea that projections can be used as a way to interpret the work being produced. An example of this, in my opinion, is Dear Evan Hansen. Negrini was actually the designer for the show, and I feel what he values as a projection designer, as an artist, is very prevalent in this musical. Dear Evan Hansen is a musical about mental health and depression in a world where everything is consumed by social media and the digital world. A big part of the musical is the main character, Evan Hansen, gaining a desperately wanted sense of popularity and love from the family of a student who committed suicide through the use of social media. So, as a way to convey the social media scape that the story is set in, Negrini used multi-layer projection screens both downstage and upstage to project images of social media posts, pictures, videos, and other media praising Evan and drowning Evan and other characters within these projections. To further convey the emotional journey of the story, Negrini had the projections be used less and less until eventually Evan was isolated and alone by the end, without the advantage of blending into the mediascape that he was once falsely living in throughout the play. There are 5 main elements that make up the world that is on the theater stage, or also known as scenography. They include set, properties, lights, sound, and costumes. Each element takes time, money, and effort to prepare, build, construct, design, and eventually present for a live audience. It can be a bit limiting to have only live material things being used to create the show, and there are many things productions would want to do, but can't due to the restraints that theater has. However, projection design can come in and fix exactly that. It becomes the new 6th element. We know that scenography is the process of crafting the environment on the stage. Therefore, the set is the physical structures that are built to create the setting of the show, and the lights are the way to signify time, emotion, and tone throughout the story. It has been argued that projections blurs the line between the two. However, I feel it should be said that it adds a line that can be bended, twisted, and stretched between the two. And Greeny says, it's made of light and used like scenery. It has all of the changeability and the ethereal nature of light, but it can also have this very specific content. Light is always suggestive and evocative, but it doesn't have information the way a realistic set does. Projections can do all the specificity of scenery and all the fluidity of lights. Projections have essentially become its own entity within the stage environment by having a flexibility that no other element of the stage has. It can be used as a set device or as special effects. Plus, since there's so much time, money, and effort that goes into creating a set and using lights to create the world that the story is set in, projection design provides a more economical solution. By using projections to help set the scene, you eliminate the time it takes since you can just create it from your own computer on your own time. You eliminate the money because you don't have to pay for material, paint, tools, etc. And you eliminate the effort since you don't need any heavy lifting, construction, or long scene changes. You can just click a button and the entire show can just transition within seconds. If we take the recent stage adaptation of Anastasia as an example, the show uses projections as an element of scenography. The musical is about the Romanov daughter from Russia who escaped the massacre of her family during the revolution and her journey to find her past to pave the way for her future. There are so many different settings throughout the story, such as Russia, abandoned buildings, snowy winter outdoors, a train, and even Paris. While all of these settings could be achieved through more practical means, the use of projections makes this entire concept more feasible. Like with the number Once Upon a December, where Anastasia is in an abandoned ballroom where she sings and dances with the ghost of her past. If it weren't for projections, they wouldn't have been easily able to create ethereal spirits dancing across the stage, or having a smooth transition of Anastasia entering Paris for the first time by projecting the city of Paris as a background. Or when they're on the train, they wouldn't have been able to have the train going down on a railroad tracks, almost like you're watching a live movie. With theater being a pretty traditional art, business, and community, that comes with the audiences being pretty traditional as well. Some of the stereotypes of theater audiences are rich, white, sophisticated, upper class, and even conservative individuals. These stereotypes stem from the fact that theater as a whole can be pretty inaccessible due to the very nature of what it is. It's a live stage show, so it can be pretty inaccessible to people with disabilities. It's expensive, so people with lower income won't be able to engage with it as easily. And even people who just don't understand the art form won't be able to engage with it as much. Projection design can provide a modern solution to what is a modern problem in theater right now. With projection design being such a modern tool being used in theater, it provides many opportunities to bring in a more modern audience and allow them to engage with the shows more. You have the ability to project any video, image, or even text onto the stage. This very fact allows theater to be more accessible than they ever have been. For example, you could project captions onto the stage for deaf audiences or even foreign audiences. You can use it as a form of dramaturgy, a form of accessibility, or just a signifier for things. Projections also, on the other hand, allows for different types of entertainment audiences to mesh with theater. This meaning that people who love movies, television, animation, or even video games could come to appreciate theater more. Since TV and film are more of a modern invention than theater, many don't view theater as a viable form of entertainment compared to the visual media that they consume. Like with Anastasia on the train sequence, the entire train sequence feels more like you're watching a POV scene of the train moving like in a movie. Projections have modernized that sequence by taking what film can do as an art form and bring it into the world of theater, just like how films can also provide accessibility via captions, descriptive dialogue, etc. If you look at the production of Indecent, it shows a pretty good example of this. The projection designer Tal Yarden says, "It was obvious from Paula Vogel's script and in my first discussion with director Rebecca Teigman that the primary role of projections for indecent would be to represent the words and language of a people, all but lost to the atrocity of Shoah. It was important to keep the projection simple and true to the intention of the play. To put it in more basic terms, Darden's design was based around the idea of subtitles, to emphasize the importance of a lost language. Even Disney's Frozen was also a good example of this concept. The idea of ice magic being used on stage would scare a lot of directors and designers because special effects in theater are usually more practical than digital. However, the way they used projections in Frozen allowed them to convey ice magic on stage, but by projections of magical ice waves, blasts, streams across the stage, something that film could easily do, but is now also easy for theater to do as well. Now, all of this conversation could beg the question, are projections just as bad as they are good? I personally feel like it's too soon to ask, but it is an important question to ask. Because even when it comes to filmmaking, when VFX was first introduced, and still to this day, there are constant debates on whether it supports or hinders the art form. Dramaturg Stephanie Walter Williams says, "The danger is that as projections move into the future and a wider range of techniques are applied, producers may find themselves scrambling for bigger and better as opposed to the organic and profound. 3D images are already making their way to the stage as Broadway shows labor to keep up with the new technologies in order to serve a tech-savvy audience." I shared with you how the integration of a modern audience is a benefit of projection design, but people do feel that if it becomes too much, then theater could be completely digitized, especially if 3D projections are already being used. However, this isn't the only reason why projections are being used, as I just explained. Yes, it's more convenient, cost-effective, and less time-consuming, but projection design is an art form in of itself. Anything is fair game as long as it serves a purpose to the production and as long as it's given care. Like with any piece of art, if you put the work, care, and passion into projection design, you get great results you should hopefully be proud of. However, if you slack off, it won't look satisfactory in the slightest. It would look inorganic when you would want the projections to look organic. I genuinely think that projection design is a future for theater. Things in the technical theater world are constantly getting updated, like new lighting instruments, new painting techniques, new tools, but they are all still staying true to the tradition that is theater. So I don't think everything will become digitized on stage, since the practicality of set pieces, lights, and sound all make up what theater is. Projection design is just a new piece to the puzzle. The way that projection design has been relatively new, but also incredibly influential in theater so far, shows why digital media is becoming so sought after right now. People everywhere complain about the influx of digital media and art, but if even a traditional industry like theater can incorporate such modern tools into their craft, who knows what people could do in other areas? Who knows what other landscapes digital media could alter?